Heronswood is an historic public garden on the Mornington Peninsula, nestled on the foothills of Wonga, or Arthur's Seat, with views of Melbourne across the bay. The garden surrounds an iconic 19th century Gothic revival mansion, and the whole site is owned by the Diggers Foundation, a non-profit with a mission of promoting gardening and the conservation of seeds and plants. It has a special place in our hearts because it's where Gardening Australia celebrated our 30th year on the ABC.
Oh, look who it is!
But this has long been a place for gardeners to get inspiration by seeing experimental styles and ideas in practice.
So this is a really challenging but also beautiful site.
Bill Bampton is the head gardener here, and today I've brought my gardening gloves because I'm going to help him extend this existing crevice garden so we can show you how it's done.
Yeah, this area was just developed about 3 years ago, and what we're looking at here was a whole heap of old sheds, and then we knocked down the sheds and found ourselves with a pile of concrete. And we thought, what can we do with it? Make a crevice garden.
What is a crevice garden?
Well, a crevice garden is replicating the crevices you'd see on the side of a hill or a cliff top. But in this case, we're using concrete, or you can use stone as more traditional.
So tell me about how you put it together. Like, it's all quite a linear form.
It's very important that it's book-leafed, all on this parallel lines. And I lined every rock up north-south, and that gets that really great aspect. It's sunny on top and moist and cool below. And it's a perfect habitat for all the little plants adapted to that situation. Here we've used just general plants that are available to the public, but a lot of this is done through alpine societies, trying to grow those plants that only grow in little craggy crevices in the Himalayas or somewhere.
Bill's got all our materials laid out already. Some more pieces of old concrete, the more angular the better, and a pile of crushed granite that they use in the footpaths around the garden. It's a waste product from the local quarry.
So what we're doing here is we're just laying a base for the rocks to go on. So we'll create some ledges higher at the back, grading out to lower down the front. And this is where we'll start then laying the rocks.
Right, they're going to sit on sort of solid, flat ground, and then the sort of soil will backfill around them.
That's right, that's correct.
You happy with that?
Yep, looks like we're ready to rock.
On it. You happy with these, Bill?
Yeah, that's great. So we just lay them out here so we can get a feel for what the rocks are, because we've sort of almost got to let them speak to you. You've got to be able to see either side, work out which way it's going to work for us, because each spot has a rock designated for it.
Oh, it's like matchmaking.
Matchmaking.
We need the spot to love the rock and the rock to love the spot.
That's right.
So begins the careful concrete placement, making sure each piece sits parallel.
Often people refer to this concrete as urbanite because these are rocks made by people in the city. And just like geological eras, they say we're living in the Anthropocene. So these are the rocks of our time, really. They used a lot of carbon and energy to create them. Most people would have thrown these away. Why not use them? And they're free.
You know, you could use it endlessly, really, and it's so available. Starting to look good, Bill?
Yeah, it is. I'm just sort of nestling these in, and how we're doing it is we're doing in these little pockets of rocks.
Yep.
Like you'd see maybe in nature, and then there'd be a little gap where we might have a planting void around here somewhere, and then we might start having some rocks, again, book leafing down here, just tying this strata across here. All right, so positioning the rocks, sometimes you go a bit counterintuitive, and if you angle the rocks up off square, you get a more natural look rather than the square look of a man-made concrete.
And that'll give you a little planting pocket, almost like an overhang here.
That's right, so that's even another little microclimate.
Unlike soil that contains organic matter, this crushed granite is inert, meaning it won't decompose or compact. So it's a great material to secure and stabilise our concrete pieces.
we're trying to bed this in, and you have to get, not quite like an iceberg, but you want like 1/3 to 2/3 in the ground to give stability to big stones. Some of the little stones, it doesn't matter so much because they're sort of more or less decorative, and you do get solidity after a while. With water, it firms up. They become very stable, especially when the plants grow in between them.
Because we're only creating a small mound on already flat ground, this method will do the trick. But if you're trying to retain a large volume of soil or working on a steep slope, you should always seek professional advice.
And then now we're on the home stretch, aren't we?
Are you thinking we leave this whole area as a void?
Yeah, I think that works well. It balances with the crevices over there.
And we can just pack that with plants and it'll retain it.
Yeah.
So I'll put this one to kind of match what's happening here somehow.
Yeah, I think matching those other ones that are there.
Up the top, yep. What about a little bit of native grass?
Yeah, put the 3 in there. Yes, beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, they're such a good plant.
Yeah. So with this old cement, people often think, oh, I can't grow acid-loving plants, but alkalinity is usually only a problem when you're using new concrete and pouring a wet cement into the soil.
I reckon this flower colour will tie in beautifully with that sedum. Whereabouts would you want these?
I think as a little mounding plant, they'd fill in this little space in here,
Yeah, right.
a little clump.
So maybe one kind of up in the...
Yep.
And then...
Yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
perfect.
We're planting directly into the crushed granite. This low nutrient environment means plants won't explode with growth and are more likely to be quite compact, as they would on an exposed cliff or rocky mountaintop.
For that little overhang of concrete, we're going to use this. It's Chloranthus, and it's quite widespread on the southeast coast of Australia. It's a beautiful little mounding plant, and I think it's going to look perfect in this crevice. Bill, I'm so taken with this as an idea because it just reminds me of so many Australian landscapes as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think what's good about this is it starts making you look at the places you're visiting and you're seeing them really close up because you think, oh, how are the rock formations? What are the plants growing in that area? So it's actually really educational, and you can incorporate it in your bushwalk.
It's true, and they're absolutely everywhere, these sorts of landscapes, from the top of, you know, Mount Kosciuszko right through to the beach.
Yeah, I think one of my favourite ones is I live down at Cape Schanck, and the rock face there, the plants that are just clinging on almost like bonsai in amongst the strata of rocks is just amazing.
Now all the plants are in, Bill is covering the whole bed with gravel mulch. And Bill says the plants shouldn't get used to being watered like they are today. After this, they're on their own.
What sort of care will this need over the next little period to settle the plants in?
Basically, the best care for these plants is no care.
Right from the start?
Right from the start.
Wow.
Like be really tough. That's what we did with the rest of it. And also, by not watering, you're not going to get the weeds at all growing because we've used that very nutrient-reduced medium. So basically, it's quite low maintenance.
You got to be happy with that. It looks like it's always been here.
Yeah, it's incredible. You can't see where we began and where we've ended, and literally made from the material of the site. And one of the really good features of this is it allows, if you've got a very flat new garden, you can create the vertical. So we've got a raised area, a mound, just creates a dynamism that you wouldn't normally have in a flat space.
It's definitely worth giving a go at home. If you've got some materials in a spot, you've got to give it a crack. Crevice, crack. Did you get it? Yeah.